Why do I look bad? Why do I look bad? Oh my god. Okay guys, hello, welcome back to another video on the channel. I love summer, guys. Don't get me wrong, I love summer, but I love me and winter. My relationship with winter is just something different. I want to be wearing jumpers right now. I don't want to be hot out of my mind. So today I'm going to be talking about Marvel, which is one of my favorite things to yap about. Basically, I'm just kind of going to be reviewing all three big Marvel movies that came out this year. So that's not including any TV shows like Ironheart or Daredevil Born Again. I know there's a couple others to come out this year. It's just the movies. So we've got Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and the Fantastic Four First Steps. If you're new here, hello, my name is Molly and I do a lot of reviews and reactions to different shows. Right now I'm on my One Piece kick. I'm literally starting One Piece from the beginning as someone that's never watched it. I'm currently in like the Alabasta saga. So a spoiler warning for the three movies I mentioned before. If you haven't seen them, don't watch this video because it's going to be a spoiler review. Like, I'm going to be talking about the movies. So at the time of just after watching, I did write reviews, mostly for my Letterboxd. And so I will basically just read those out. So Captain America Brave New World, I did not watch in the cinema. I watched this at home. I don't know how I missed it coming out in the cinema. It just went completely over my head. I hadn't seen anything about it. I knew it was coming, but didn't know when. And all of a sudden it was out on Disney Plus. So I was like, oh, I'll watch it with Disney Plus. I think I bought it to watch actually. Can't remember. My review of Captain America Brave New World was very short because this is when I first started to get into actually writing down my reviews and thoughts on things. So it started off quite rough but improved as we got deeper into the story. It tied up a lot of loose ends regarding the Sokovia Accords, the Eternals aftermath, and then the Incredible Hulk storyline. Wrapping up stuff about the Incredible Hulk movie, which I hadn't seen in years. So I was watching that and I was like, who is that again? I have not seen that movie in so long, but it recapped it pretty well. It told us what was going on very well, so I really appreciated that. I really liked the new character Joaquin? I think that's how I say it. Joaquin Torres. I loved the new character. Danny Ramirez did such an incredible job, but I do think that we lost the Sam Wilson that we knew. He's too focused, trying to be like Steve, and I feel like that was prominent in this story. Was I don't see Sam Wilson right now. I'm seeing a new Steve Rogers, basically, because he's trying to make himself fit the morality of Captain America, when the morality of Captain America wasn't necessarily the best thing. The reason that Steve decided to pass down the torch was because he knew the world needed something new and something different. Being Captain America wasn't working anymore. They'd lost in Infinity War, and that's not just his fault, obviously it's not what I'm implying. The Captain America ways that everyone thought, it wasn't working anymore and they needed something new, and that's why he felt comfortable enough to live his life with Peggy and pass down the torch to Sam, because Sam was so different to him in the best ways, and I feel like we've lost Sam a little bit. I want him to be rediscovered. And the Isaiah storyline was obviously one of the highlights. It was also a highlight for me in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series was Isaiah and that storyline, so I loved it being brought into this as well. I'm so happy. So that was my review for Captain America Brave New World. So next is Thunderbolts. That's the next one I watched. I watched Thunderbolts in the cinema, and then I've watched it twice since it's come out of the cinema, once with my family and once with some friends. So I know more about this. I don't remember too much of the storyline in Captain America Brave New World, but I remember basically all of Thunderbolts because I've watched so many people react to it on YouTube as well, because it's so many reaction worthy moments that was so big, and so I know the story pretty well. But my review is what I wrote after the first watch, and I said the MCU is officially back. I loved this whole movie. There was no point where I was bored or uninterested. I was hooked completely. The cast did an incredible job. The acting of the serious topics was impeccable and the comedic timing was perfect. I loved how there were so many parallels, and also how we got to truly see this group of strangers become a family, and it was as simple as being strong people forced together. They focused on the importance of teamwork at the heart of a mission. The new Avengers are putting the old Avengers to shame in terms of teamwork and friendship, but they still need to up their strength and power to beat our future villains. But I loved it. I kind of still stand by most of this after my rewatches. They do, in terms of teamwork and in terms of friendship, put the OG Avengers to shame a little bit. I always love the OG Avengers. I've been in the Marvel fandom and I've been a Marvel fan since the 2012 Avengers film. And so I've basically grown up with this franchise. And so I do know my stuff. Don't ask me about comics though. I need to get on that. I know. I don't even know where to start. Someone suggest where to start with comics and I will give it a go. As I was saying, I think I saw in this movie with the new Avengers, Thunderbolts, they needed each other to complete this mission. They needed each other to win. The Avengers never made me feel that. Although it was factually they did, they wouldn't have been able to do it on their own. They never made me feel like they needed those specific people by their side to win. Whereas this felt like it couldn't have been anyone else. It would only work if it was those 6 people. 6? Anyway, my Fantastic Four First Steps review. This is the longer one of the 3, so sit with me for this one. A beautiful story on the importance of family done to perfection. The dynamics between the Fantastic Four were communicated instantly and portrayed so well. My favourite part of this movie was how each member of the Fantastic Four had their own storyline and motivations for their actions, to the point where I would happily sit down and watch an entire spin-off series about Ben Grimm wandering New York City on Earth 828. Even with these scenes, the story still felt cohesive and they all were working towards a common goal. The acting in this movie was what sold it for me. I was always confident in the talent of the stellar cast for the long-awaited introduction of everyone's favourite family into the MCU. However, nothing could have prepared me for how well these actors understood their characters and how incredibly they portrayed them, even in small moments like their reaction to seeing Galactus eat the planet when they first met him. I must especially applaud Joseph Quinn for his portrayal of Johnny Storm, making me see the character in a whole new light. I've always loved Johnny, and Joseph's version of him made me understand him so much more. I was so impressed with how he learned and deciphered an entire language on his own. Like, that was one of my highlights of the movie, which I'll get onto later. The score of the movie really brought everything together, making us as the audience really feel and hear the intensity. It would be wrong of me not to mention Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm, a mother not only of a family of heroes but also of an entire planet. She literally served mother to everyone on the frickin' planet. Like, her speech to the people had me so emotional and also inspired in her mission. All in all, these 4 heroes have solidified their place in my heart, and I cannot wait to see more of them in the future. Bring on Doomsday, Reed Richards. I cannot wait for you to meet Alexei Shostakov, because I know fathers unite. Fathers unite. So excited. That was a review I wrote like straight after the movie, so I didn't really get much into what actually happened in the movie, more just how it made me feel so satisfied with what it was. And so I didn't really speak in that review of like I didn't even mention Franklin at all, and that's like the main point of the movie, but it was more about how the movie impacted me, and I was like, this was a great movie. It was so good. In terms of my favourite out of the 3, it kind of falls into 2 different categories. Fantastic Four was my favourite as a standalone movie. It felt the most well done and executed. However, Thunderbolts would be my first place in terms of a Marvel movie. It linked to characters that we already knew in a familiar universe without getting caught up in the whole multiverse madness, you know? Multiverse of madness. Anyway, ignore that. It also had such a powerful message and was so different for Marvel while still having such a sense of familiarity. So I would say Fantastic Four was my favourite standalone, but the Thunderbolts was my favourite as a Marvel movie. It felt more like a Marvel movie. Fantastic Four felt like a superhero movie, but a really, really, really good one. If you guys are new here and you don't know this, I'm also an aspiring actor. It's my dream to like act in TV shows and movies and everything, from majority screen but also stage. Like, I just love it so much. It's my genuine passion and dream. So it would be nonsensical of me to not mention the acting in these 3 projects, which, by the way, guys, can I just say, excelled every expectation I had. Truly so good in their own different ways. Like, they were very good, but in very different ways. Captain America Brave New World gave us the Marvel acting that we all love, like the ones that we've seen in Avengers and Ant-Man and everything, where it's like, in terms of comedic timing with the serious balance, all while keeping a very well-rounded, uplifting feel. Especially, obviously, Anthony Mackie, 8 down. Like I say, I do feel like we've lost a bit of Sam Wilson, but I think that maybe there's intention behind that, because I think that he still has challenges to go. He's still got challenges to face as Captain America, and I think one of those is going to be rediscovering himself as Sam Wilson, not just Captain America. So I'm really excited to see that in the future. And like I said before, Danny Ramirez did such a great job coming into the MCU, and I just thought he was really the breath of fresh air in the film, and really appreciated his character being brought in. Like, it was super good. I'm super excited to see him in the future as the Falcon. I think maybe he'll have a different name. Maybe he won't be called the Falcon, but super excited to see that. Thunderbolts, they tapped into emotion and comedy in a more pure form. It felt a lot more natural and followed more of a specific theme. It was well balanced with comedy and seriousness like Captain America Brave New World, but obviously even in comedic moments it was very much a dark humor. Like, the moments were it was dark humor, but it worked so perfectly. And obviously Florence's monologue was one of the big standout points in terms of like the emotional acting. Like, she truly did such a good job. Like, the way that she can use her voice alone, like if you just had a blank screen and you were just listening to her, like just listening to what she was saying, it would give you almost the same level of emotion than even just seeing her. And like the facial expressions she's using make it so much more emotional, but like just her voice alone, crazy. That line, "Daddy, I'm so alone," oh my god, broke me in pieces. Like that was so sad. And David Harbour, who plays Alexei Shostakov, did such a good job as well. Like he truly, that was the biggest father point I've seen from him. He was very much like, we did see him as a dad in Black Widow in the early stages, but that felt so true, so real, so raw in his response. Even though he wasn't on maybe the same emotional level as Florence was with that monologue, his response was so emotive in its own way. Loved that scene. It was so good. And also Lewis Pullman, who played Bob and the Sentry and the Void, like his entire performance of those three people was amazing. Like the difference between those three characters was very clear from their look alone. Like you could tell when he was the Sentry, you could tell when he was the Void, and you could tell when he was Bob. Like it was very much visually communicated to us. But I think even if it wasn't, even if he was still in that like jumper and like cargos for all three of those characters, from his performance alone, we would be able to tell who's who. We would be able to tell when he's Sentry, when he's Void. But yeah, he did an incredible job at portraying three very different versions of the same person. Like I say, I think even if they were in the same outfit, same hair, no blonde hair dye, we would be able to tell because he did such a good job. And then Fantastic Four as a whole, acting impressed me, I would say, the most. They may not have had like those really big monologue moments where it's really raw and emotive, which I loved, as I said. They may not have had that. However, the cohesiveness of the cast and the way they bounced off each other in every single scene, truly like a family, while also communicating the foundations of such complex characters to the point where I left the movie understanding them so much more, amazed me. And I think writing has a big part with that, but I also think the way the cast took on these characters plays such a big role, because I've watched all the other Fantastic Four films. These four characters have never been as well communicated to me than in this film. And that's not to say those other films were bad. I'm not saying that at all. This was different. It was like, oh my, I was like unlocking new things to know about the characters and the way that they work and their ambitions and how they want to be perceived. Like it was amazing, and I really enjoyed it. Like I think overall Fantastic Four was good at every single point, other than maybe the final fight. There's things to be said about that, but I think overall it was consistently really good at every single point. Whereas Thunderbolts, it dragged a little bit after leaving the bunker and then up until like the Void part, like that bit in between dragged a little bit. Loved Bucky's entrance, loved their scenes like showing their dynamics, but it still, it felt longer, you know? Whereas I never got that in Fantastic Four. Captain America Brave New World started off quite slow. It started off not great. When it first started, I think it was going to be a miss. But then it proved me wrong, and it got so much better as we got deeper into the story. But like it wasn't that consistent good that Fantastic Four was. Fantastic Four wasn't perfect, but it's more consistent than the other two, if that makes sense. When I first watched Endgame and Steve went back to be with Peggy and then he passed the torch, I didn't love it. Not because it was Sam, I just didn't like the way they ended Steve. I didn't like it. I thought it was out of character, which probably very unpopular opinion, because I imagine many people say, but that's exactly his character. But I personally think it was kind of out of character for him to leave behind the people he's grown to care for and people he wants to protect. Endgame came out in 2019. I think I was 15 years old. I'm 20 now, so maybe 14 when Endgame came out. I've since kind of got used to it, and I think I can agree with it more so now. I still don't fully think it was the best idea. I get it more now, but I always, even back then, agreed that if he were to pass down the torch, it should be Sam. Many people said Bucky. Bucky too old for that shit. He's the Winter Soldier. He's living his own life as such. I don't think he could ever attempt to be what Steve was. I don't think he would ever emotionally be able to let himself do that. Because you can't have a Captain America without his Winter Soldier. You can't. And so who would be the Winter Soldier? I truly think that if it was anyone, it's got to be Sam. And so I was so happy. Like, even when watching in 2019, I thought that was the best decision to do that if you're going to do Steve like that. But I didn't agree with what they did to Steve. But that might just be because I'm a Roman Rogers girly. Nat and Steve, to me, you cannot give us Captain America and the Winter Soldier, you cannot give us that chemistry and then do nothing with it. But it's whatever. It's whatever. I mean, she was dead anyway, I guess. You know, she was not alive. Thunderbolts versus the Void. This truly was, let's defeat them with the power of friendship. That's what it was. However, I don't think any fight has had me more emotional. Oh, hold on now. I could be lying. The fight in Endgame, when Steve picks up Thor's hammer and he fights Thanos with basically every bit of himself that he has left, and it just looks like he's fighting for the sake of nothing because he's going to die, but he'd rather die trying than do nothing. That was very emotional. And I think Thunderbolts, it just like there, I'd say. I could be forgetting some fights, so please don't pull me up on that. But it was, like, all I'm trying to say is that it very much was emotional and so well done. Fantastic Four against Galactus in the final fight. I don't think that their power was presented in its entirety. Galactus is not an easy villain to beat. Bro literally eats planets for a living. Like, it's difficult, and they are 4 people, but I don't think that their powers were well portrayed, other than Sue Storm, obviously, because she kind of mogged her way out of it. She did great, liked that, but Reed Richards showed really, in the whole movie, nothing much of his stretchy powers. And Johnny was great, but all he kind of did was fly. And obviously we got, it's clobbering time, you know? But I don't think that they really fought Galactus so much as outsmarted him, which makes sense for the Fantastic Four. But it didn't really feel like a fight. It felt like a puzzle. Like, 'cause it wasn't my favourite thing about the movie at all, but it wasn't bad. I don't know if I loved it, but I liked their plan, and I mean, it worked. I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus. Because we're talking about fights, favourite fight choreography, Thunderbolts against each other. In the vault, when they were against each other, so good. The knife throw, I remember that really got me like out of my seat. I was like, oh my god, that was fucking fire. When they threw the knife and each of them deflected it or caught it in their own way. So good. They're just people that punch and shoot, and they do it so well, and they portrayed how well they do it. It was amazing. That was cool, but I think that was my favourite fight out of all 3 of these movies, was Thunderbolts against each other in terms of choreography, because it was so good. So now let's talk end credit scenes, because come on, it's a Marvel movie, you gotta talk about the end credit scenes. Captain America Brave New World. We saw Sam go into like the place where they kept Team Cap in Civil War, I believe. It was the same place. Gosh, this is me showing how much I remember of this movie. I don't remember much. Was his name the leader? He just gave us the most cryptic explanation of the multiverse. Basically, he's just warning Sam that the others, which I can only assume to be people across the multiverse, are coming, and that Sam's not prepared. That end credit scene would have made like a way bigger impact prior to Spider-Man No Way Home. And the reason I say this is because in Spider-Man No Way Home, we literally got to visually see the others coming in from the multiverses. That's like, we saw that. If we'd heard that end credit scene prior to that movie, it would have felt like a bigger threat. Or even prior to Multiverse of Madness, or even prior to Loki season 1, it would have had a bit more of an impact. But in the spot it is in the MCU, wasn't on the edge of my seat. I wasn't like, oh, the others. I'm like, we know the others are coming. Come on, guys. We've introduced the multiverse for a reason. I wasn't impacted by it at all. Not in the same way that the other 2 did. Thunderbolts, that one had me the most hyped, like truly. First of all, it's super long. Like, we were fed. I don't think I've ever seen an end credit scene that long. And secondly, not only does it nod to Fantastic Four, which was coming out literally a couple months later, but also we get updates on the entire situation on Earth 616 regarding Sam and Bucky, and also the world's stance on the new Avengers. Completely wrapped up the movie for us and set us up for the future in like the best way. And we also got Bob explaining how he's still dealing with limitations, so once again sets us up that he's gonna have issues with being the Sentry. So regardless of how all-powerful the Sentry is, he can't control that right now. So Doctor Doom and the future villains still have a big chance against us, because the most powerful person on Earth 616, in my opinion, as of this moment right now, because Wanda is dead, is the Sentry, and he can't control it. He cannot be the Sentry. So that was really good setting us up, because it kind of tied up a loose end of like, hold on, if we have this really all-powerful being, what's the point in the future? Be like villains. We can just floor them. We also got to see updated looks for all the Thunderbolts, which was awesome. I loved it, especially Bucky's hair, guys. Bucky's hair. And also Alexi's glow up. I do miss the new suit reveals being in the movies though. Like when Peter Parker got his new suit in Infinity War, when he was falling off the ship and it was shot out and it was the new suit. That was like one of the most hype moments of that movie. Like, it was so good. That movie had so many hype moments. Like, take me back to Infinity War. That's one of my favourite films of all time. So good. And I kind of miss that. But then again, the Spidey suits do tend to have more of an impact on the audience. Whereas I feel like I can't really think of another Avenger where their suit would have this crazy impact on how different it would be. I've seen from people that reacted that are fans of the Sentry in the comics, they kind of went crazy over the Sentry suit, which is awesome. But as someone that didn't know before, it didn't have much of an impact. It looked like he was part of the Eternals to me. Like, it gave similar vibes to the Eternal suits. So, are we bringing the Eternals back, by the way? Like, low-key want them back. I didn't love the Eternals movie. I didn't hate it either. But I want to know more. I feel like that's such a loose end that we don't have tied up at all. And I want to know more. Also, the end credit scene for Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, I believe, was filmed by the Russo brothers, who are the directors of Avengers Doomsday and also Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Age of Ultron. Were they directors on Age of Ultron? Oh, I don't know for sure, knowledge, oopsies. But they're very famous in the Marvel community. Apparently, this end credit was filmed like a couple months before the film came out, so no one knew what it was in context, even the like producers and directors of the film, apparently. And then Fantastic Four, the post-credit was just the cartoon. However, the mid-credit scene was the one that I'm going to talk about, because that's the one that had the most impact. Once again, pretty sure it was shot by the Russos, as it has a direct link to Doomsday. Like, literally, we saw Doctor Doom for the first time on our screens, like big screens. Many people have theories about this, and I've seen a lot of talk regarding the comics and the significance of Franklin and Doom's relationship, and I'm super excited to see it unfold. I don't know much about it, so I couldn't really have theories. I just don't know where we would go from here, because it suggests that Franklin was taken by Doom, or Sue Storm has to fight Doom alone, a fight that she cannot win at this point in the story. So I'm excited to see where they go with it and how the Fantastic Four end up on Earth 616. So now we'll get on to the final segment, which will be my favourite moments from these three films. Captain America Brave New World, Bucky's surprise appearance, that was one of my favourite moments because I did not expect it, but also it would have felt so incomplete without it. And also, oh my god, I forgot to mention this, one of my favourite fucking moments was when Joaquin went down, had like a similar fall down and crash to War Machine. Anthony Mackie, when he was the Falcon in Captain America Civil War, initiated. He's the reason that War Machine couldn't walk and had to have surgery, because he accidentally hit him super bad and he fell to the ground and like broke both his legs. Joaquin had such a similar fall, like you could mirror the scenes against each other and I'm sure there would be similarities, and I loved that they added that in. That was one of my favourite moments, so that's on there too. In Thunderbolts, the escape from the vault, one of my favourites. I loved the climbing up the elevator shaft and the way we got slowly introduced to Bob's powers, and then also the bit where we get Bob 8-pack reveal, and also we're introduced he is the Sentry, or he is a super being of some sort. The Thunderbolts working together to help the people when like everything was crumbling down and they lifted the slab of pavement, and Alexei threw Yelena in a very Steve and Natasha way, and the way they all just worked together to help the people, loved that as well. That was the first time I truly saw them as like, holy shit, these guys are like the Avengers. Lo and behold, they're the new Avengers, and I love them. And also the Yelena and Bob talk in the attic, so well done. Even when I watch people react to it, and watch people react and I'm watching them talk through it like I do as I react. I love it, completely get it. I still cry every time. Every time, because the acting is incredible. And I generally think that holds on the back of Lewis Pullman and Florence Pugh's acting. Truly fucking amazing. And so that's one of my favourite moments of the film. Completely. One of my favourites out of all three of these films is that talk they have in the attic. Fantastic Four, the scene on the ship, the giving birth scene, that stuff, brilliant. When they see Galactus eat the planet for the first time, acting brilliant. Loved it. The Ben Grimm side story, I need more. I need more, please. I loved it, and plus I'm such a big fan of Ebon, who plays Ben Grimm. He also plays Richie in The Bear. Richie is one of my favourite characters of all fiction ever. I love The Bear so bad, and Richie is my favourite character in The Bear. His episode, season 2, episode 7, Forks, best episode of any series ever in the world, I fear. Might be. Big statement, but off the top of my head, it's my #1 spot. Absolutely love it. I could rewatch it every single day and never get bored. And so I think maybe it's why I had a soft spot, but I just loved his side story. And also, Johnny revealing he deciphered and learned a whole new language, one of the highlights of the film as well. The way that they built that up for him, and that being like the coming to point of him proving himself, perfect. Absolute perfection. So well done. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can check out my socials here if you would like to. I know this was a bit of a different video for me. Right now I'm focusing on One Piece and I'm loving it so much. But I also want to like keep that variety of content coming in, especially in between episode reactions when I'm still watching and catching up to react to the next episode. Yeah, and I just love yapping about my favorite things, so that's kind of what I do over here anyway. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you very soon. Love ya.
Love you. Bye.
Love ya.